Hello, welcome to Candy Shoppe Yarns, where everything is sugar-free and high in fiber. I'm Deborah, the owner of Candy Shoppe Yarns, and this is the ultimate destination for knitting and crochet enthusiasts. If you're one of those, welcome. If you're not, you're still welcome. This is the first video since beginning my Shop Your Stash series. So if you are wondering what that is, go back to the previous video where I went through and tallied all of my yarn. I looked at how much yarn I have. The video before that, I talked about it even, but what I'm doing is I am wanting to spend some time working with what I have rather than always acquiring, especially because I am a yarn dyer. I have very easy access to yarns. And because I'm a yarn dyer, I am always working on shop samples, which is coming from my shop, from new collections, rather than being able to use what I have in my personal stash, which I love. So this year, or at least right now, for the foreseeable future, I don't have a time limit necessarily. My plan is to go to my personal stash first, before buying anything. So if I need to buy things in order to use what I already have, then I am free to do that. I'm not putting too many restrictions on myself because I don't do really great with that. But I'm feeling in this stage of my life that I could be a little bit more free by just being content with what I already have. Now, after you watch the last episode, the last video, then we need to do a little update because the amount of yarn that I tallied is not correct. At the end of the last video, I said I had 34,169 grams. And then all the way at the very end, I found some more that I had to add in. So I added that in. And then I also added in, where did I put that? I have some yarn that I dyed to make a sweater using yarn I already have in stash. And so I added that in. Then I had some other things like my daughters come and use yarn that I have like for amigurumi, and whatever they have left, they bring back. And so I have a daughter that brought some back. Anyways, after all of that, and then I also hadn't tallied all of the yarn from projects I'm currently working on. So I had to do that. So I added it all together, and what I actually have, here it is, 37,443 grams. That's the amount. That's the amount that I'm starting with. That's what I'm working with. And we will see how things progress over time. I am not fast in knitting or crocheting. Sometimes I'm more prolific than other times, so we'll see how it goes. But I have some good progress for this week. So that's what we're going to talk about, is what have I got done. Okay, so at the end of this video, we'll see what my new tally is. Make your guesses. How much have I reduced from stash? Make your guesses, put it in the comments, and we'll see if you're right. Okay, I have one crochet project and the rest is knitting today, and so I'm going to start with crochet. All right, I have this blanket that I am working on, and I've made some good progress on it. Let's see, I have a little stitch marker here now that shows where I was last time. Now, this blanket starts in the center and then you work your way around and around and around, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so this marker shows where I ended off last time. So I have this much that I've done, but I have that much done all the way around. So I have this much here and on the other end and on the sides. So that's pretty good progress. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 completed shell stitch rows, but it's really 14 rows because in order to complete it, you have like a foundation row. So it's a foundation row and then the shell stitch, and then a foundation row and then a shell stitch. So this isn't a specific pattern. There's a lot of tutorials for this shell stitch blanket in the round, or not really in the round, but goes around and around rather than back and forth. And I can link one of the videos. I watched several videos. I can link one of them that I used, but the yarn I'm using, oh, I just pulled out. Here's the beauty of crochet. Like knitting, you drop a stitch and it's like, oh, you panic. Crochet, one comes out and it's not that big of a deal. Okay, the yarn I'm using is this one, Loops and Threads, soft ombre. It's a polyester blend in the color Emerald Spearmint White. It's a kind of a gradient. And I was working with 4 skeins, and I am about, I've done 1 3/4 skeins, though some of the first one is not in this blanket, didn't end up in this blanket, some of the first skein. I originally did like an 8-inch square that was a different gauge, and I ended up not pulling that out. This yarn is a beast to rip out. Make sure you like what you're making with it, because there's no ripping it out. I just cut the yarn and started over again. So even though I'm about 1 3/4 way, no, I'm 3/4 of the way through my second skein. That's what we'll say. And I had 4 skeins total, and I am not going to use all 4 skeins. I was like, well, I'm using full 4 skeins because I'm using all of my yarn, but I think it's going to end up way too big for a baby blanket. I think it should be like 36 inches, 40 inches max, but it will end up, I don't know if I'll use that much. We'll see. I figure I'll probably use the one that I have and one more, and that would probably be enough. We'll see. If I end up not dipping into the 4th skein, then I'm just going to have to donate that other skein, because I don't know that I would really, it's not a yarn I would use for other things that I could think of. I don't know. I could make hats. I could make mittens with it, but it's not really my go-to for that. I have plenty of other yarns I'd use for that. But I think it's beautiful yarn. Like, oh, I think it's such a pretty blanket. So pretty. So the hook I'm using is an H 5mm hook. I have kind of a tight gauge, so I don't know if that's an appropriate hook in general for this yarn, but it is for me because I'm kind of a tight crocheter. When it comes to knitting, I'm more loose. So I'm not counting the yarn used until the project is done. So we're not going to count this yarn yet. When the project is done, then I will know how much I've used. But I'm pretty slow on this. I really only go around one shell stitch. So a foundation row and a shell stitch a day. So this one's going to take me a while. And every time I do it, it gets a little bigger and bigger. And so it takes more time to make it all the way around. Also takes more yarn. So who knows how much I'll end up using to get the size I want. But yeah, I'm just getting slower and slower going around each time. So this isn't a project that I have a time frame, like a time limit on, a deadline. It's just, I'm making it for fun. So I have a gift for a baby when I need one. It was going to be for a grandchild, but I changed my mind and made a different blanket. Okay, oh, knots. It catches, it knots on itself. I've had a lot of knots in this blanket too, in this yarn. one after another. It's been kind of a frustrating thing. So that's the crochet that I have been working on. I'm trying to, I was trying to get some projects finished so I could have kind of quick wins and have something to mark off of my stash so I could feel like that, you know, instant gratification. I don't know if you've ever done Dave Ramsey's debt snowball kind of thing, but we did that. And I was kind of using that method where you work on the project that's the closest to being finished and put all of your time, all of your energy into that one and get it done. And then the next one that's the next closest to being finished and put all of my time, energy into that one and getting that one done. I've kind of worked through that way, doing a couple of them. And then I've cast on some new things. So now I have a few different ones that I'm working on, but simultaneously, I'm not doing the, instead of the debt snowball, we could call it the project snowball. I'm not doing the project snowball right now. Okay, so what I did, I showed this briefly on the last video, like for a split second. Let me go to the details of it in my knitting and crochet journal. Okay, where I should put like a bookmark or something on the area that I showed last so I know where to go to. Okay, here we go. Okay, we have some baby projects. Claire, if you're watching, turn it off. Can't watch. You have to wait for 1 week. We're having a baby shower next week. And I won't have time to get a video up before the baby shower after this, so I'm gonna have to show it now. Okay, so I am making the Puerperium Cardigan by Kelly Van Niekerk. I'll have a link to that. That was a free pattern on Ravelry. And this is the little sweater. Now, the sweater is newborn size, and it's supposed to be like really actually newborn size. And it calls for a DK weight yarn, and I can't remember what needles it was. So I got some DK weight yarn, and I wanted to use scraps. I wanted to use what I have. I have a lot of DK weight scraps, and I thought a baby sweater, not gonna use that much. I'm looking at how much yarn people said they used, and I got enough yarn that I would have plenty. And I started knitting, and I'm like, this looks big. And this yarn is going fast. And I started to panic a bit. And I checked my gauge, and my gauge was way off. I didn't do a gauge swatch first. It was way off, but I thought, I'm gonna finish this sweater. It's already almost done. But I didn't have enough yarn to do sleeves, so I did the short sleeve version. But this is more of like a 3-month size sweater. But it is very cute, and it is scraps. So I'm happy that I could use that. I didn't write down. Well, I have it written down on my tally marks for, okay, it used 67 grams of yarn. So I did have more, but it was the dark blue. I didn't have enough of this gray. So if I had done even stripes or wider stripes of the dark blue, that probably would have been better. And then I could have got long sleeves. But honestly, by the time her baby's 3 months old, she'll be wanting a short sleeve one. So that one was really cute. But I still wanted a newborn one. I wanted the teeny tiny one. So I went down, I think 2 needle sizes, and I could not get gauge. So I thought I'm gonna use fingering weight yarn held double on the smaller gauge. And I was close, but the fabric was way too stiff. So I don't know how they did it with DK weight yarn. So I went down to sport weight, and I had sport weight yarn left over from my grandson's Dinosaur cardigan, which I'll show you in just a little bit. But I had leftovers from that, and I could get gauge with that, and I made this one. I did the straight sleeve version. I actually made it with the tapered sleeves, and I did not like how it looked, so I ripped that out and I made the straight sleeve. And then I added just a little embroidered bear face. So this is one of, I'm like, you probably couldn't even see. I can't see what you can see now. I probably was holding that funny. I did kind of like satin stitch for the eyes, and then I did duplicate stitch for the nose. I was trying to do satin stitch for the nose, and it looked awful. And I tried again and again and again, and it was like going angled, and it was just, it looked terrible. It was bunching it up. So I thought, well, I'm just gonna make up a duplicate stitch nose. I was gonna do it as an oval, but this worked out really great. I just kind of made it up. And I like that it has the buttons down the side, so you don't have to pull it over baby's head, because babies' heads are usually quite large compared to the rest of their body. And so if it's big enough to pull over their head, it might fall off their shoulders or just be you know, babies, you don't like pulling things over their heads and trying to get their arms up there. So I thought that would be a good one. So that used, how much yarn did that one use? Gotta look at my notes. Baby sweater number 2, it used 66 grams, almost the same amount. This one I think took 67, I said, and this one's 66. But I like the gauge and how this one worked up much better. Now I think that if I had used a fingering weight yarn held double, that was the 75-25, the one that's just really thin, and it's got like 36 yards for 100 grams. That could probably work, but I had some sport weight yarn. So that's so cute. Oh, I love it. I just want to make all the baby things. Okay. So now I mentioned I finished my grandson's cardigan, and I've already given it to him. So we're gonna go to past Deborah to share a little bit about that cardigan. Hello, my daughter is on her way right now with my grandson to stop by for something, and I really want to give him his gift. So I'm taking just a minute to record this video to show you about the project that I made so that I can give it to him. He's gonna be so excited about it. Are you ready? This is the Dinosaur hooded cardigan that I shared recently, and it is done. So I shared this where I had blocked it, but I hadn't put the spikes on yet. And look at that. I've added the spikes and it's finished. He's going to love it. So I want to tell you about the spikes. Now, first of all, when I talked about this project previously, I talked about how I made a lot of adaptations to it. There was nothing wrong with the pattern. The pattern was fine. I just didn't want to do seaming anywhere I didn't have to. And so I wanted to avoid seaming here and seaming the sleeve and sewing the sleeve on. So I made adjustments that way, but it's a great pattern. The other thing is I changed the seed stitch to ribbing so it wouldn't flare out, and I did fewer stitches when I picked up to do this band around the hood so that it would pull in instead of all the photos showed it flaring out. So that's something that I would recommend doing. But it's a great pattern. So for these spikes, they are knit kind of like you knit a toe. They just make it pointy instead of rounded. And then you seam them, you sew them on. And I honestly didn't read the pattern. I didn't read how they wanted you to do it. I just started doing it because I wanted to get it done, and I had put the pattern away for some reason already. And I think that they recommend stuffing these slightly, and I didn't do that. So what I did is I did mattress stitching the spike to the hood. And what that did is it pulled the sides of the spike under, and it helps it to stand up nice and straight. I did it a row apart, so there's a little bit of space in between along the sides as well, which gave it a little bit more volume and helps it to stand up. And this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see how there's a row in between the stitching, and then I left a 1 stitch gap in between each spike, and I didn't put one here. I wanted this to be able to fall back and not have anything in the way. And I decided not to add one more here to go down onto the ribbing. I could have put one more there, and it also calls for a little tail with a spike, but I thought that made it look more like a dragon, so I left that off. But it's adorable. So with this I used, and I did the size 4 to 5 years, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spikes. It called for 15, but I used 12. And it turned out great. I'm so happy with it. I hope to get a picture of him wearing it, though I don't show pictures of their faces, so we'll see if I can get one. But I think he's gonna really, really love this. And I really like how this blue turned out. I think it looks fantastic. Looks great. The colors of spikes look great on it. Oh, he's gonna be so excited. Can't wait to give it to him. I love it. My grandson loves it. He's been crawling around on the floor pretending to be a dinosaur for days now. He wears it all over the place. He loves it. He's already snagged it, and we've repaired the snag. That's just part of having kids and having knits. That's just fine. But it's fun to see that he's enjoying it. All right. The next thing that I have made using my yarn snowball method, I finished, is this. Let's start right here. This is the Bountiful Shawl. Is it a shawl, or was she calling it a scarf or scarflet? I can't remember what she called it, but the pattern is from Salt City Knits, but it was a November gratitude yarn box, kind of like an advent for Thanksgiving, from Yarnbrary, the Yarnbrary. That's my sister Emily. And it was a 7-day advent, so 7-day countdown box with 7 minis. And then the pattern included was called the Bountiful Shawl. And it kind of just had like a daily devotional of gratitude that you could read and participate in each day, and then work on the project. I made a couple of modifications to this. I wanted it to be a little bit deeper and kind of squishy. Like, I added mohair. So I added 1 strand of lace weight mohair throughout. I held it double with the fingering weight minis, and I went up 1 needle size that so that it could accommodate the extra yarn in there, and it made it just a little bit bigger, and it's perfect. It's perfect to wrap around your neck. Oh, I have 2 shoulder injuries. I don't think I can get it on. I have pictures. I can't raise my shoulders right now with my arms. But you can wrap it around, and it looks really beautiful. It's perfect for a scarf, and I'm gonna use this for a Christmas present. So I have a Christmas present done. And the amount of yarn I used for this one, okay, let's see. I used 36 grams of mohair and 81 grams of fingering weight yarn. So if I had known that's how much yarn it would have taken, I wouldn't have broken into a new skein of mohair. I have mohair scraps. I probably would have had enough to do this. But also it uses 81 grams of fingering weight yarn. You could use this with a skein of just a full skein, and it is a good size. So I could do this again, just using a single skein. That's the thing, we're always wondering what to do with the single skeins. Or even if I have somewhere I've used, 10 grams of one, or, I could still use that, because this only used 81 grams and I did go up a needle size. So even if I did the regular size needle, like without holding it with mohair, I could definitely get away with using even not a full skein. But that is a little smaller, which is how the pattern was designed. Anything else? The nice thing about this one is that you're knitting the edging as you go. I've made Emily's rainbow bridge shawl, where it kind of is the same design. It's not as narrow, but then you go and do an applied border along the edge, which looks so cute. The idea was that it was like a rainbow with the clouds along the edge. So kind of similar design, still different, but I was considering doing that again with these minis instead of the pattern it came with. But I do like that this edging is knitted concurrently, so you don't have to simultaneously. Concurrent is alongside at the same time. Simultaneously. Yes, I think that's the correct word. I just like that I didn't have to go back and do something else along the edge, and I'd have to figure out, well, what yarn would I want to use? So this is a great design. Okay, so with that, now I don't need to tally in the yarn for my grandson's cardigan, because that was already made and out of my stash before I counted everything. Yes, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, those are all the things I finished. So now what I've started 2 new projects. So the first one is I had some socks that I had cranked on my circular sock knitting machine, but the gauge was way off, and so I never sewed them up and finished them. And I always thought, well, I'll have to go redo it again. And I thought, no, I'm gonna just knit them by hand, not on the sock knitting machine. I'm going to pull from the knitted sock and just knit it onto the other needles. But it sat there for like 1.5 years, 2 years. I think this is one of the first pairs that I tried doing like minis instead of just all one sock. And I don't know, I just messed up several things. And it just sat there and sat there. I was never really excited to do it. And I really only want to work on things I'm excited about. And I thought, no, I'm not gonna do this. And I thought, no, what I'm excited about is getting this project done. I want it done. So I'm just gonna start it. And I started, and I'm having the best time. I'm really enjoying it. I've got it on 2 different needles, so I can pull right from one sock and do the cuff. And then once I did that, I did the cuff on the other one, and then I started on the leg pattern. And once I finish one color, I'll finish this color, and I'll just keep doing these concurrently. And I don't always do that. I do this method when I'm doing scrappy socks. That road is so busy. It's Saturday, and I rarely record on Saturday. I always think it's busy during the weekday, but Saturday it is loud. Okay, when I'm doing scrappy socks, I do this method because I want to use up all of the yarn. And so what I'll do is I'll pull from like the inside of a ball and the outside of the ball and knit both of these when I'm unsure if I'll have enough, so I can use every last bit and have it be even and not have to guess. Because even weighing it, 1 gram difference, you can get an extra row or more. I don't know. So I want to make sure that they're even. And I don't have any specific pattern. I cast on 64 stitches. I use a US 0 needle, which is a 2mm, I believe, because I have a looser gauge when I'm knitting, and especially when I'm knitting socks, because I work really hard to relax my hands so I don't cause so much strain like I used to. I work really hard on focusing on having very loose hands when I'm knitting. So I have to go down a needle size because my gauge is looser. So I cast on 64 stitches. Each stripe here has 12 rounds here, but I'm able to get 13 rounds on this sock, or so far. But with ribbing, it's a little different, but I have some knits and purls going on here too. So we'll see. So I'm just doing 2 rounds of knitting and then 2 rounds of knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and then 2 rounds of knitting, and just keep repeating that. And it kind of makes a waffle weave texture, a waffle texture. Yeah. So I'm enjoying that. I'm not working really hard on this one. I'm just working on it here and there. The one I'm really excited about is this project. This is a upcoming design by my friend Amy and other knits on Instagram and YouTube. And this is called the Manderly Scarf. It is so cute. It is designed to use 400 grams of DK weight yarn or any equivalent. So you could use a fingering weight yarn held with a mohair or 2 fingering weight yarns held together. But you need 400 grams. Well, she has 2 sizes that you can make, but for the large size, it takes 400 grams. And I really wanted to make this design. When she showed it to me, I was like, I have to do it. I have to make it. And it's in the test knitting phase, so I was able to work on that. So what I did, you will have seen a little bit of this, of clips of this in the intro, but in my stash, I had a mesh bag filled with minis and scraps that I loved, that I had a whole bunch of like the same ones, or ones that I thought would go really well together in this bag. And I thought I could make a sweater or something with it. But what I did is I sorted them out to where I put all of the one kind of minis together, kind of tealish purple ones. And then I put all of my purpley ones together. And I left out ones that I had that were kind of a solid color that I thought I would put in with it. But there were like 18 10-gram minis of one, and then 9 10-gram minis, and 5 20-gram minis, anyways, of the other. And I just divided them into 2 categories and wound them into 2 big yarn cakes of 180 grams each. I just wound one mini, and then I tied a knot together and started the next one, and kept going and kept going and kept going. And I have these here. I have them in these little mesh sleeves because I'm pulling from the centers for this. When I hold 2 yarns together, I like to pull from the center. Otherwise, I pull from the outside. So this is all the same colorway. It was minis that I was going to sell in my shop, but it was off a little bit. I wanted it to be a slightly different color. And so I just threw them in my stash. Like, what am I going to do with 18 10-gram minis? And then this one, kind of similar, but it was 2 different colorways, but they were similar. One's kind of lighter, one's a little more saturated, has more teals. And so I alternated those and just wound one on top of the other, on top of the other. And so I'm holding these together to make my DK weight yarn, but I don't have 400 grams. I have 180 of one and 180 of another, so I have 360 grams. So it's not enough to make the full length. So I was talking with Amy, and she helped me work out how I could make this. It's gonna be a scarf. It's gonna be so cute. I should have showed this early on. It's got scallops along the bottom, along all 4 edges. The difference is the pattern calls for 5 scallops wide, but I decided I'll do 4 wide because what I would rather get is the length than the width. So I'm gonna try and see how long I can get this, having it 40 grams shy of what the pattern is requesting. Now it is a test knit, so yardages may vary. I may have been able to get the whole thing with 5 scallops across, but anyways, I like this and it is so cute. So cute. That's all I want to work on. I started this yesterday. Okay, so it uses short rows, but they're German short rows, and the German short rows I feel like are so much easier. And I always love how Amy writes her patterns. It's easy for my brain to follow. So I'm having such a great time. And once I got that first little bottom part started, which wasn't hard, it was pretty simple. For me, I felt like, you know, I was able to follow the directions. Then the rest of it has been just quite mindless. Not 100% mindless, because there's shaping that we're doing on both ends. And so I feel like this is the perfect mixture of all of my favorite things. So it's coming together in like the most perfect project. I get to use scraps. I love using scraps. Now these are minis. So, I mean, we'll call them scraps. Like I didn't know what else I was gonna do with them. So I could use up my random yarns that I've been wanting to use. It's squishy. It just feels so lovely. And it's mindless, but not too mindless. And it's not just rectangle. It's got some shape to it. So, oh, I'm loving it. Okay, so on the back, there are all these little ends. Can't see those other ones down here. Because when you use 10 gram minis and you're holding it double and there's a lot of them, I'm gonna end up with a lot of ends. So let's see if I can show you how I decided to work my ends. Right, here we go. We've got some yarn here. Because I knew I was going to have to make this simple or I wasn't gonna do this. I need a contrasting color. There we go. Okay. So we'll say I'm knitting along, and I'm running out of yarn, and it's time now to start in the next one. So when I have about this much yarn left, I fold it back on itself, and I knit with that doubled. And then I take the next strand and I loop it through like this, and I continue knitting till I run out of that. So I just am working 2 strands together, essentially, knitting it and keep going. And I leave a little bit of the end, it's right here in my lap. A little bit of the end poking through, and I make sure to always move it to the same side so it's all on the back side. And then once this is blocked, I can trim those off. And so essentially what it's doing is when I weave in ends, I essentially do a duplicate stitch. I just follow the pattern of my knitting to weave in my ends, and that's what this is. But it does mean that instead of having the same thickness, it has a little bit more thickness, but in garter stitch, you just can't tell. So it's going well. So that has made it really simple for me to work out all of the ends. Now you can see that there's some color changing through here because I am using kind of leftovers and scraps that are not all the same. So there'll be some color changing and gradation through this, but I think it will look really nice. It's interesting. You can't see this in person, but I see like these like C's here. I can't see that here. No, I'm trying, but that's the thing. Cameras always create higher contrast, so that's just normal. But I am loving this. I want to only do this forever. Well, I always think that, but then when I'm about halfway through a project like this, I'm like, I'm ready to be done. So, okay. So those are all the projects that I have finished and that I am currently working on. I have a lot ready to cast on, but I don't want to cast them all on because then all of my making time will be spread out too thin, and I want to see progress. I want to see progress on some of these things, especially with Christmas time coming up. I need gifts. I need gifts. I'm going to be doing, I think, some hats and mittens coming up next. I have to put aside baby things for now because I've got to do Christmas things. Was that all of it? Oh, this is the yarn that I did. I did have it right here for my sweater that I dyed. So I showed in the last video that I had these skeins in my stash for a rosy sweater. These and this for the contrast. But I needed mohair. So what I added in my stash that I dyed was the mohair to go with it. So I dyed these skeins of mohair and this one. So I added in 200 grams. Each of these are 50 grams. I've already tallied that in my beginning total that I told you about. So let's go through, before I go to shop news, I have just very, very brief shop news here. Let's go through and I'll show you, this is how I'm tallying it. I've got what I'm starting with, and then I put down what happens with my yarn. If something's coming in or going out, I'll put if it's, you know, being added or subtracted from the list, what it was and how much yarn, and then the running total. So I had 600 grams that I donated. I donated it to a sock project that I saw online, East and Elm Design. She is doing something really fun. She is doing I forgot what she was calling it. It's like the Sisterhood of Socks or something project, where you can nominate a woman in your life that has had some sort of impact in your life one way or another, that you would like to receive a pair of hand knit socks from her. And she's giving away socks that she's knit. And so I wanted to support that. I didn't have anybody I needed to nominate because of the fact that I make a lot of socks, and so I give them to the women in my life. So I told her I'd be happy to donate some yarn. So I went through my stash, and that was actually harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm like, oh good, I can get rid of some yarn. But I love the yarn that I have that I've kept. So so I found I found 600 grams that I could donate to her. And then the striped baby sweater, 67 grams out, the bear sweater, 66 grams, and the Bountiful Shawl, 117 grams, for a total of 850 grams out of my stash since the last video. That is a lot. That's a lot. I have 36,593 grams to go. So when I'm dead, I'll still need to finish that up because I am not that fast. Okay, so that's about 366 full 100 gram skeins. 366. It took me 2 weeks to use 117 grams in one project. Okay, it took me 2 weeks to do 120, 340, around 350, about 350 grams. It took me 2 weeks to do about 350 grams. Who wants to do the math for me? How long would it take me to use 36,593 grams? Forever. That's how long it would take me. Actually, my goal is not to be stressed about it. My goal is to do this as long as it brings me joy. And if it stops bringing me joy, then I'm not doing it anymore. so that's my progress. Stay tuned. If you are doing the same thing, I would love to hear how you're going about it. I've heard in the last episode some comments, people that are doing that, some of the things that they've done to tackle their stash, and I've loved hearing about that. I would enjoy hearing from you. How much do you have in your stash? How much have you used recently? You're welcome to share. All right, let's go on to shop news. I have a little bit here. I shared this previously, but in here I have a not so secret advent. This is my Christmas by the Hearthside 12-day advent calendar. And it's not so secret because I share exactly what all the colors are and what they look like. You can see it on Instagram and you can see it right here. The whole premise of this is that you get exactly what you're expecting. You know what you're expecting. I love advents. I love the surprise, but not everybody does, especially right now when the economy is rough and you don't want to be investing as much money as it takes to pay for an advent calendar and not be happy with it because you get it and you open it up and you're like, that's not what I was expecting. And so this way, you know what you're getting. And also it's 12 mini skeins, not 24, because sometimes 12 is too much, or 24 is too much. It comes packaged like this. And I include a paper here of project ideas, patterns that you could make with this. You could patterns that require only this, or that include these minis plus a full skein, or these minis plus several other skeins, say for a blanket or some sweaters. If you order DK weight minis, I have some pattern suggestions for that. If you got fingering weight but you want DK, hold it double like I'm doing for the scarf. You pull from the inside and the outside of the cake at the same time, and you can get a DK weight yarn. But I only have, I think, as of right now when I'm recording this, I only have 9 left. So with this being a 12-day advent, you could start this on December 1st, or you could do it 12 days before Christmas. You could start it on December 1st and open one every other day if you like. It's really up to you how you want to use it. I have numbered these, given them an order, but you don't have to open them in that order. You can do whatever you like. That's the beauty of it. You can also add on an optional, if you want, full skein of like an undyed yarn to use to do stripes or hold double with it. You could add on a skein from my shop, any other one if you want to not have an undyed one. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to share was from a previous advent, my retro rewind, the 1980s themed advent, but that one was from 2023, and I don't have that advent anymore. It's sold out, but if it's one that it was interesting to you, I have these mini skeins. These are a selection of minis of colors from that advent that I carry in my shop, and they are just really fun 80s colors. The colorway names are Spandex, Blush and Bashful, Food Court. This is a popular thing if you were familiar with the food court in malls. Leg Warmers, Strawberry Shortcake, and Aquanet. So I have several of these in my shop right now. So if you are just looking for some fun colors or a really great gift to give somebody, because it does come in this box, so that's a really nice way to give it as a gift, then I have those in my shop. I have lots of other things as well, but I wanted to highlight those two. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm excited to continue on this Shop Your Stash series, and I hope you're enjoying it, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye.